Okay, today we'll be learning Mitzvah Shem from Daf Yud Zayin Amud Beis. We're trying to catch up with a few days which we missed. To start, I don't remember exactly where we left off, so we're going to start from the last line or two from Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph. So in the Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, we spoke about that when there's a machne which goes out to battle, so that the army. So then there, for many things, they're potter. And there was a brisa over there which said that if any of the army, if they die, so Rabbi Yehuda and Tema Eimer, that that where the soldiers, if they're killed, so their place, even though it's somebody else's shetach area, you can covered, you can bury them in that area. The koiner, the mokim, and one can bury them over there. So says the Gemara, I'm starting from Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema Eimer. Af choine bechol mokim shnerogim shom nikvarim. That they, besides the fact that they can camp anywhere, but also besides that also that where they die, the koiner, that's place, and they can be used for their kaver, and you don't have to transport them anywhere else. So the Gemara asks Pshita, mes mitzvah, if it dies in battle, is a mes mitzvah, kind of mekayma. And if it's a mes mitzvah, the din is that even if it dies on somebody's private property, you can bury him over there, and that's part of the 10 takonas, which Yeshua was misakim when he captured Eretz Yisrael, and when he inherited Eretz Yisrael to the Yidden. And so therefore, it says, so it's a Hadara Pasha that if it dies in battle, then you're able to kain him because it's a mes mitzvah. And what's not, it's a new din that Rabbi Yehuda ben Tema has to be mechadash us. So Gemara says litzricha that the chiddush is the af agafti is like kovrin. That even though he has kovrin, he has mishpacha, he has yoshim, and therefore the yoshim, they could take care of him. Nevertheless, if he dies in battle, and they can take him to a different place. Nevertheless, if he dies in battle, you're able to bury him on the spot where he is, even though it's somebody else's private property. And what's the raya that it's not a what's the raya that if somebody has kovrin, it's not considered a mes mitzvah? The Tanya will learn the brisa ezehu mes mitzvah kol she'ein kovrin. What's considered the mes mitzvah? There's nobody who will bury him. If he calls and other people will answer him. So there's there are two ways of learning pshat over here. So one way is that if one is alive, he'll call people to take care of him and help him, and they will answer him, they'll respond to him. In other words, the relatives. So if it's he has relatives, is a mes mitzvah. So that's not considered a mes mitzvah. I call upon him. So therefore, we see that if somebody has relatives and who will take care of him and bury him, that's not considered a mes mitzvah. This is this pirush which I said that sort of fits in to the way to Rashi. Okay. Then the Gemara asks the question. So what we just now said that the mes mitzvah is kainas mekayma. So the Gemara's going to ask a question that mes mitzvah kainas mekayma. Is it true that what was just now said that it's like the part of the takon of Yeshua was that the mes mitzvah is mekayna mekayma? But Tanya with the brisa hamoid si mes mutal b'sratya. If you find the dead person lying on a highway or on an established road, so it's established road, people need to walk past, so you don't bury him over there. So you put him to the right of the asratya, so you turn him either bury him by the right of the road or by the left of the road, not on the road, because people are going past and they'll become tomei and so on. So the southern if the mess is next to obviously there's nobody to take care of him, just that person, we don't know who he is, and so on. So if that person is next to an empty field, that's the southern bur, empty, it's not plowed, and then the southern near which a field which has been plowed. So if he's next to these two fields, you should choose to bury them in the empty field which is not being plowed. Panel is soda bur. Soda near the soda zera. If the one has been plowed, and another one field has been plowed, and the other field is being planted. So if it's planted, it's in panel is soda near. So you should put him to the bury him in the plowed field, which is not planted yet. In other words, you choose the field in which it's going to do less damage. That's the principle. If they're both equal, they're both been plowed. They're both been planted. Buras, or they're both empty. So you put him to whichever field you want. The Kitzer Hadvarim. Why not bury him on the spot where he is? So we see from over here that the Mes Mitzvah is not Koines Mekoim, because otherwise you don't have to move him to this field, or the one with less damage is done by burying him over there. Just bury him where he is, because it's Koines Mekoim. So we see that it's not we don't have the principle of Mes Mitzvah Koines Mekoim. So Rabbi says that the MS, of course, Mes Mitzvah is Koines Mekoim. What we're talking about, that there's a path between the fields. There's a path between the fields, and the mess is lying on the place which is between the fields, and he's taking up all the space of that narrow path which is between the fields. So if you're taking up all the space, if you bury him over there exactly where he is, so that it means you'll be goyim tumah to people, because the koyanim are not allowed to. A kohen will come, he's not allowed to cross over the road. He can't use the road. He's walking along the road, and then there's a mess. Then there's no way out. Or other people who want to be Torah, and they need to be Torah because they're going to do things for which he has to be Torah, and so you're causing terrible michshel to many people. So therefore, over there you shouldn't leave him on that narrow path, and you should put him to the side of the path. So that's what we're talking about. Since because of the damage which do the michshel which will create if you leave him there, because he's taking up the entire path the way he's lying. So then you have to move him. So then you can choose whichever way, whichever field you want to bury him. Another din which we learned in the Mishnah earlier, that if the people who are in a machna, they're going out to the army, so the potter merchitza sedrayim for washing their hands. So we wash the hands twice. We wash the hands before we eat, in the netilas yadayim, before we eat the hamaitzi, and then we wash again my machrein before we bench. That what was said the Mish said the part from washing your hands is elamai rishonim. It's only my rishonim. Elamai machreinim chayva, but my machreina is an obligation. And therefore, even though they are in the army and there's many kulas and they're now on the way to war, nevertheless there are many kulas. But then this my machrein they still have to do. It's more obligatory because Maim Rishonim is a mitzvah. So the mitzvah is the Chachamim Mevater. But this is a chayva. It's not a mitzvah. It's more stronger than a mitzvah. It's a chayva. Therefore, they have to. Why is it a chayva? So he's going to explain. Why is it chayva? It's even more than a mitzvah. He says because there's an in of sakon over there. Because when you eat a meal and eat bread, yeah. So the thing is, it says in the Gemara in Brachas that after eating a meal, one should dip his finger in salt and have some salt because after eating the bread and so on, it's healthy to have some salt and yes, and so if you didn't have it within the meal, you'll have it by eating at the end some salt. So that's what it says at the end of the meal. You dip your finger into salt and have some. So since there's melach sdoim is the salt which comes from sdoim, shemesames anayim, which makes which blinds the eyes. So therefore, if he won't wash his hands off, it could come to zakona because he'll put his fingers that will touch a few moments later, will touch his eyes, and therefore is the obligation to do my machreim, therefore to wash out the melach stones. Stam Tosis points out that that nowadays that there's no melech daimis. Therefore, there's a leniency that not to make my machreinim. And also, nowadays we don't put the finger in salt. We put in salt anyway. We have it throughout the cooking. In the bread we have salt, and everything they put salt in all things. Therefore, it's not so necessary to have my machreinim nowadays, and therefore there's a kula in not making my machreinim nowadays. The stam kabbalah and yonim, of course, it remains even now. They should do in yonim to make my machreinim. And also the emes Ritva also he says that there's another Indian besides the sakona shebadavar. That the sakona is that what makes it that my machreinim is a chayva. But besides that, there's another reason for having my machreinim, because you're going to bench. If you're going to bench, so therefore you wash your hands. Your hands should be clean before benching. And that he says is that doesn't make it a chayva. So therefore, when you be in the army, but nowadays that even though we don't use malach stemis, you would still have the other reason, which is not a chayva. You'd have that reason to wash your hands, to wash my machrein. And even that you can find certain kulas, whatever. I call upon him. Certainly, Bas, we make my machreinim even nowadays as well. The that the amount of this substance, this chemical, which is blinding, is in the melech daimis. It's only a small amount. The kura is a 30 saw. In the 30 saw, you have the amount which is like a kurta, and that small amount. So within the melech daimis, the vast majority of it is we won't make the person blind. But that bit of chemical, if we happen to the fingers have touched that chemical, then it really will make can make you blind. What happens? Somebody who has been working with salt and filling up sacks and so on with salt to deliver it, etc., etc. Because he has to wash his hands because the sakon over there. Okay. Another of the things that we said that the person is the camp in the machna where you're going to the battle is that they're that they are permitted to eat the mai. What's the mai? The mai is wheat, etc., which you have brought from Amman, which you bought from Amman and Amaharetz. If you buy it from Amaharetz, so you're not sure whether they gave the maestros like you're supposed to. And so it's a suffix whether they gave maestros. So truma the amharatzim give, but the emes they don't give maestros. Because truma is a small amount, but maestros. So some amharatzim don't give maestros, and the emes in the maestros there is a truma as well, because one of the maestros which you give to the Levi, so a tenth of that is given as truma to the kohen. So the kitzer, so there's a problem of truma there and meiser as well. And so therefore, if you buy from Haaretz, you have to be mafresh again the meisers. You have to mafresh. But this is only midrabanan because of the chashash. So right, and this chashash. So sometimes we'll make on the chashash that we say you're allowed that you don't have to take meisers. You can just eat it from Haaretz. If you buy from Haaretz, you can still eat it, even though you don't take prices. In certain instances, where Chacham gave a kula, and the reason why they gave a kula is because Roiv Haaretz Ma'aseh. The Roiv Haaretzim do take meiser, so that was only a meal. So that nevertheless, Chacham said you should take meiser again before you eat. But in certain instances, then you're makel, and this is and one of them is when you're in a machna of for battle. So then you're part of from taking meiser again, and the Gemara brings the stan that supporting for this Indian that sometimes we makel and we're allowed to eat the mai. The stan will let the Mishnah machila say aniyim the mai. That poor people they can be given to eat the mai, and you don't have to meiser it. They don't have to meiser it again. And also Achsanya means that that the an army which is on the move, and the soldiers come into the city, and the people of the city, they are the people of the city are supposed to feed the soldiers. That's how it used to be. So when the group of soldiers when they're traveling and they pass by the various cities, it's up to the villagers of the city people to take care of their needs. So so you're allowed to give them even the achsanya as well. When you get to achsanya, so goyim, who cares whether the goyim whether they eat mais tevel or meiser, they eat treif b'chol. So first of all, Rashi Taka says that achsanya means over here if you have Jewish soldiers who are passing by, so you're allowed to give even the Jewish soldiers. If it's a Jewish army or whatever, so you're allowed to give even the Jewish soldiers. You're allowed to give to eat them to Mai, and you don't have to take Meiser again from the Mai. Tosfos actually says, it brings from the Yerushalmi that even goyim you're not allowed to feed them the Mai. So there is an opinion in Yerushalmi that even goyim you're not allowed to feed them. The goyim what they eat themselves is not negaya, but you are feeding them the Mai, and you're having a noah from it because that's how you're doing your duty, and so that you're not allowed. The one said Tona the Shama this is a Mishnah said you can be Mekel and give Aniyim and Chsanid Mai. The Shama this is the Bryce which Huna brings, says that you're not permitted to give. You're not allowed to give. You're not allowed to be Mekel with the Mai. You can't give 4 people and then Achsanid Mai. But that's B'Shama's opinion about this. Hill Achilas Aniyim D'Mai v'Achsanid Mai. But the Hill say you can be Mekel like the Mishnah which was just quoted. In other words, that what we learned the Mishnah is it depends on the machlokes of B'Sham B'Hillel, and therefore, if you see somewhere some din or something which says about not being permitted to be mekel, so you should know you can disregard it, and because that's the opinion of B'Sham. Then umul ari. It's another thing which when you're in the machna when you're in battle, so you don't have to make an eruv. So you're part of making an eruv because eruv derabbanan. So Amri the Rabbi Yana, the Talmidim Rabbi Yana said, "Yosh leishonu elo be'eruv chtzeres, eruv chtzeres." That taka they don't have to make. If they have the 2 groups over there and 2 mechitzas, and they made it like so, then they don't have to make eruv chtzeres. Aval eruv tchumen, if they want to walk more than 2,000 amas from where they are on Shabbos, chayovin, they'll have to make eruv tchumen. Why? Because it's the rise. The Tony Rabbi learned the rise like in alle ruve tchumen dvar. So since it's a din with the rise, the din of eruv tchum, that you're not allowed to walk further than the tchum, and therefore you can't be mekel even when you're in a machne. The chachamim can't be mekel even when you're in a camp of battle. Maskiv lo Rabbi Yonason. Where do you learn out tchumen? Where does it say tchumen in the Torah? Where's the pasuk? The pasuk it says al yetze ish min koimei. There with the story with the man and everything. So it says the Yom Shabbos you shouldn't go and collect the man. So it says al yetze ish min koimei. So it's now you learn out. You can't go outside your machne. So so they ask the question. Do you give malchus on a lav which is written in losh, not loy? It says an al. It's a different loshon. Do you give malchus? So therefore, he's asking the question: how come you say? How did you say you give malchus in area of tchum? Say there in the Torah says you're not allowed to walk outside the tchum, but I can't give malchus. It says al, not loy. So Maskil totally disagrees. Maskil Racha totally disagrees. Of course, you give malchus even by if it says al. It says you shouldn't turn to the oibus yidonim as type of magic and so on, which is connected with Avodah Zarah. So if to that Al Tifnu, you shouldn't turn to them. So if you turn to them and you serve them and you serve the Avodah Zarah, so it's a Chayav Misa for Avodah Zarah. But nevertheless, if you don't serve them, you just ask them. So you ask them like this is magic. You ask them the future, whatever these questions which you ask them. So if you ask them, then you get malchus for it because you didn't serve it. You just asked them a question. So Hachanami, are you going to say loy locked? You don't get malchus for it because since it says al tifnit, it doesn't say loy. So the Gemara explains. So in other words, so what's the kasha Rabbi Yonasan against the din of Rabbi Chia, which says loikin they get malchus on the Fe'eru Tchum. So the Gemara explains that the question was a bit different. So the Gemara says the question was lav as far as Mrs. Bezdin because since it's a lav which is as far as Mrs. Bezdin, the lav of Atetzu Mim Kaimai. Al Yetze Ish Mim Kaimai B'Yom HaShabbos. Now from Al Yetze Ish Mim Kaimai B'Yom HaShabbos, we learn out that you're not allowed to carry on Shabbos. So most of the Lamates Melachos of Shabbos we learn out from the Mishkan. They're not written in the they're not written in the pasuk, but according to some, when Al Yetzi Ishmin Kaimai is referring to the Isser of carrying, and so therefore that was a kasha Rabbi Yonasan. The kasha Rabbi Yonasan was since Al Yetzi Ishmin Kaimai is talking about carrying, because that talk about the pasha of the man, like I mentioned before, and we used to go and to bring the man and carry it back into the makna, to go out with the baskets and to collect the man, and they bring it there, then they bring it back into the house. So it's since the Al Yetze Ish Min Kaimai is talking about the man whether we're carrying, therefore there is a union of Misudezn of Chil Shabbos of that's one of the Lamates Melachos, and even though Tchumin, which you also learn from the same pasuk, even the Tchumin which you also learn from the same pasuk is not, it's not one of the Lamates Melachos, so therefore you're not Chayav Misa. But since the carrying is Chayav, since the carrying is one Lamates Melachos, so Chayav Misa, and then Lav, which is given for Lazarus Mrs. Bezdin, Cholav Shnit Lazarus Mrs. Bezdin, ain't Lincoln Olav. We have a cloud, you don't get Malchus. Therefore, how can you say get Malchus Lav Tchumin when we need this, when this Lav is learned for carrying, and this Lav is for carrying and not and therefore you can't get Malchus on it. So Rav Ashi says Miksiv al Yoitzi al Yoitziksi. So according to Pirush Rashi, so that he says Rav Ashi rejects that this is talking about carrying. He says it's talking about this whole story there. It was talking about the man over there. But the pasuk is not telling you anything about the details of carrying. He's telling you, the pasuk is telling al Yetzi. You shouldn't go out. So therefore, that's the words of the pasuk, and therefore the pasuk tells you that tchumen, you're not allowed to go outside tchum. You're not allowed to go outside the tchum. That's the pasuk telling you, and that's midiraisa, and therefore you get malchus for it. And carrying, we're not carrying it from there. Then the issue of carrying is not mentioned in the Torah according to Rav Ashi, and therefore. You do get malchus on Erev Tchumen in Torah. I would just mention just the Kitzer that in the Rif and the Rosh and in the Rambam they speak about this that is it based in Yerushalmi be'etzem, that based in Yerushalmi that midiraisa there is the midiraisa. The tchum is the Isser of tchumen is the eraisa. The Isser of tchumen is the eraisa, but it's Yud Beis mil, 12 mil. The tchumen which we have is tchumen of 2,000 amas. So 2,000 amas, that's 2 mil. And but with the eraisa, the Isser is to go beyond 12 mil. Beyond the 2 mil. And right. So, but and this and this Gemara must be holding like that. This Gemara here must be holding like that, like that opinion, which is in the Rishalmi, that by 12 mil, by 12 mil, you have an Issa deraisa of Tchumen. But and that's how the Rambam Paskin stack it. But the majority of the Paskim don't paskin like that, and they paskin that from other games in the Bavli, from other games in the Bavli, that always calls. Says the Mishnah, Oisim passing berois, Arba Jumdin, Nirin Kishmoina, Dire Rabbi Yehuda. So, if you have a boir, which is in the Rosh Hashanah, you have a boir in Rosh Hashanah, and the boir is with water, and therefore those boirs you want to be able to use them on Shabbos. So if you want, therefore you'll be able to use them on Shabbos, and you have the boir, because it's deep and it has more than 10 tefachim, so therefore it has a din of Rosh Hashanah. So the boir has a din of Rosh Hashanah. And in order to be able to take out the water, to fill up water from the boir, and to be able to put it down next to the boir and drink from it, or to give maybe to drink from it, or maybe to give to animals. So in order to take out the water from the boir and put it down, you're taking from the Rosh Hashanah into Rosh Hashanah. So what do? You have to make the area around. You want to have to make the area around the boir should be a Rosh Hashanah. So therefore, you'll be able to become useful, be able to use the boir in Shabbos. But the problem is that you want it to be quite open, because the boirs for the waters, who comes to drink the water? Comes the animals, comes not people and animals. So you really want to be open. You can't just fence it up and make a door with a and so on. It's not practical. So therefore, the practical thing is so therefore you leave it open in all four sides. So what do? You make passing the birois. So the birois, to the wells or the boirs. So so you make a passing is means planks of wood. So you put down on all four corners, you put down these planks of wood, and they will be arba jumdin. I mean, jumdin is from the word dew, which is dew amudin, two amudin. So it's like an L shape. You take two planks and you put them like corner. They're going to be on the each corner. On each corner on the four corners, you're going to have 4 jumdin, and each jumd is made out of 2 planks in an L shape, and that will be your corners. And one of the missions is going to say that each plank should be the width of an amma. So, and then once you put them in 4 corners, so therefore that transforms that you have the chitzas, and the gaps are considered a Pesach. So you're going to have a Pesach from all sides, and each on all four sides you'll have a Pesach. At the end you'll have 1 amma of a plank, and and then that turns it into Rosh Hashanah. So it says that's what it says. Arba jumdin, 4 of these pairs, jumdin, the pair of pairs of 2 amudim in an L shape, nirim kishmeina, which is 4 planks. Yeah, and that's the word that Rabbi Meir says. The Meir says it's not enough. He says that you need to have. It's not just good enough to have in the corners. You need in the middle. You also have to have another plank of an amma. So therefore, you have the 8 planks of the 4 corners. The L shapes of the 4 corners are 8 planks, and then you have 1 plank in the middle of each side. You can have another one, so see another 4 planks. So in total 12 blanks. Abroad Yundin, 4 L shapes, above Pshutin, 4 Pshutin. Go even Asartov. How tall do they have to be? They have to be at Asartov. The Rochban, how we just mentioned that, how long, how wide they have to be each these blanks. She shot 6 tefachim, which is 1 amma, but even kolshu, the thickness is not material. They have any amount of thickness. How far can they be spaced out between them? So it says Kimle Shnei Ravkos, so Sholish Bakar. So it's the groups, the Ravkos, when you take the oxen, you tie them together for the purposes of plowing, and you put a yoke over them. So then so you use 3 oxen together usually, and therefore they come together as a not a pair, as a I don't know how to call it, 3 together. They come as a group together, and so the width for each para is about, you have to account about an amma and 2/3. So the neha between the so how much space can you have between the 2 L shapes? So between the 2 L shapes is you have to have shtei ravkos shalosh bakar, which means 2 groups of the 3 each. That means 6 bakar. You can have 6 bakar. Now, 6 times 1 2/3, because each para is a 1 2/3 amma. So you end up is 10. So it's 10 ammas. So according to Rameir, you can have the maximum space you can have between the maximum space you can have between the L shapes is 10 ammas. Rabbi Yehuda says shel arba shel arba. Rabbi Yehuda, he gives a bit more. He says that each group of oxen is 4. There's the space of 4 oxen. The Rabbi Yonis explains that because sometimes they used to use groups of 3, sometimes groups of 4. So what should you go according to? So Rabbi Yehuda says you should go according to the groups of 4. In total, it comes out again. It's 8 times 1 2/3, which is about 13 1/3 amas. Kshurais, v'loy motoris. We talk about that they should all be tied up and not untied, loose. So because the animals are loose, of course, it will take up much more space. So we're talking the space as these animals are tied together. They're not coming together. They should it should be wide enough that one is coming in and one is going out. Because if there's all these 8 of them, the 2 groups will be coming together, they will be closer to each other. If one is coming in and one is leaving, it's the nature of things is it's going to they need a bit more area. Because it means so that's a bit more area, and so that's how we come to these numbers. Okay. Now then he adds, the Mishnah adds, mutar lahakriv lebe'er. You can make the now how much area do you have to allow? Can you turn in how much area around the be'er? Sorry, because here is a big kula. Chacham will make it. There's many things here which wouldn't work in other types of mechitzas. For instance, what about the issue we learned before of that you have lots of pesachim, then it's parutz meruba al godur. It's unacceptable, right? So we have a kula here. That here we don't care about the fact that it's entirely open from all 4 sides. It's parutz meruba al godur. We don't care about it. And other kulas which we have over here as well. The kitzur, so the kulas which we have over here. So the question is, how it's not since with these kula dikmechitzas, so is it only a limited area, or can you make it a larger area? How does it work? So he says over here, mutar lahakriv be'er, that you make it as close as you want to the be'er, this area which is designated area of where you put the L shapes. You can be very close. Uvad, you have to leave enough space. You have to have the least, the closest you can have them is the kitzer, it's 2 amas next to the berry, that next to where the water is, because you have to leave a space, the amount of space that the para, the majority of the para, Rosh Veruba, will be inside that enclosed area, so to speak. Because we're worried that the person will take out from the berry and then we'll just to give it to the animals, whatever, and he'll take the bucket or whatever it is, and he'll take it further out into the Rishus Harabim if the area is too narrow. So what's the area? The area is the ratio of the majority of the cow should be inside, which is 2 hours. So that's how close you can get to the boir and make it a smaller area. And what about how far away can you make it? How large can you make the area? So it says mutar laharchik kol shehu. You can be marchik, make it as far as you want. But the thing is, if you make it further away, you'll end up with the distances being more than 30 between each L shape. The distance between each L shape, each corner, will be more than 13 and a third. So therefore, you have to put in some planks in the middle. Passing, similar to what was mentioned by Rabbi Meir. You have to put a plank in the middle and therefore break it up, and therefore you have 2 psachim in each direction. So that's what the Mishnah says. You make it, you want to have it designate a larger area, you can do that and break up this Pesach into by putting pasin in the middle. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer ad beis haSayim. Rabbi Yehuda says the limit is beis haSayim, which you mentioned before. We learned about it, that it's 50 amas by 100 amas. That's the beis haSayim. It's larger than that, then you can't make it. You can't make these bekitzos. The basic concept of beis haSayim is the basic concept of beis haSayim is that if it's an area which with the raisa, if you have a mechitza around an area, if you have mechitza around the area, that is a Rishus Hayachid with the raisa. Doesn't make a difference how large the size is, how large the area is. But midrabanan, if the area has not been fenced off for living purposes, if it's not there to be used for living purposes, then the maximum amount of area which can be considered a Rishus Hayachid midrabanan is beis haSayim. If it's more than that, then midrabanan you're not limited to carry in the area more than Dal Damas. It's like carrying in the street. So the same thing. So that's the basic principle. But if it's a place which has been fenced up for living, so if your house is more than beis haSayim and the chotzer which you're using and you live in a chotzer is more than beis haSayim, that's fine. If the area is being used l'dira for living, then it's fenced up for living. Then you can have more than beis haSayim. Okay. Now what about this area? Where it's drinking is. What's the halacha? So Rabbi Yehuda beis haSayim. The maximum space you can have is beis haSayim. Amr Leiv said to him, "Lo Amr beis haSayim ela legina." Gina is where vegetables grow. Well, the karfet is where you store wood, but not outside outside the city. Rashi says, yeah. So it's a place where you store wood. It's not a living area. But if it's a place for the animals, even not just it's a place for the animals. Dir Sahar, that's an enclosed area for animals. Mukta is the back garden, the chotzer, the front garden. I feel beis chamesh is kurin. I feel beis hasara kurin mutter. Even if it's 10 kur or 5 kur, that's each kur is 30 saw. So it's mutter is permitted. Or mutter lahachi kol shehu, and the Mishnah concludes you can make it as far as you want. That's like the halacha. Or b'van sheyarba pasin. But you can't have the gaps bigger than what was mentioned before with the amount of cows, and that was which was the machlekes between 10 amas and 13 and a third. And if you make the entrances larger than that, you're going to have to put in many more pasim. Mitcham, I will try and today later sometime do a few more shiurim and try and catch up.